In spite of that first circumflex, Mike is among the most successful yet humble leaders I have ever known. The fact that he let me do the intro that I just did is proof of his humility, you'd agree. It's been our privilege to work with Mike over the last 7 years on 3 different continents and across 8 different countries. Mike is currently the CEO and President of CSC in Asia. For those of you who don't know CSC, it's one of the world's largest IT services organisations, 100,000 staff globally, about $20 billion, a very big company. So when we started together in 2003, Mike was the CEO of CSC Australia, a role he occupied for almost 5 years, and many of you heard the story of CSC Australia's transformation at this conference in 2007. Today you will actually hear Mike's personal journey. I know you will find Mike's journey truly inspirational, so please join me in welcoming him to the stage. Good luck, Mike.
It's easy for you guys to laugh at that. I actually had to get that feedback. So what I'd like to do, I guess, first of all, is give you my version of kind of some of the background to where we got to. So I was appointed CEO of the Australian operation, having been in the company about 5.5 years, and all of that was based here in Australia. Had the first 5 years in Melbourne, the last 6 years in Sydney, and as Peter said, I'm now up in Singapore for the last 18 months. So, and I was the tail end of a series of promotions at that time. Our global president and COO retired. The gentleman running Europe was promoted into that global president's role, and my boss, the then head of Australia, moved to Europe, and I got the Australian job. And so I had a brand new boss, didn't actually know him at all. I really hadn't built a network in CSC. I was really very much focused on the Australian business. So there was, brand new boss, he didn't know me, and that was in April. Good news, in May, we have our global senior leadership conference in the U.S. So I was actually quite looking forward to going to the U.S. as the new kind of president of the Australian operation. It was going to feel pretty good. And about a week before the meeting was due to happen, the president sent out a note wanting to have a staff meeting of his direct reports. So that was myself and our CFO at the time were due to go. Now I had a dilemma because I was running around in those first 6 weeks meeting customers, doing press interviews and meeting our staff. And I had a key customer meeting on that day when I was supposed to be in the U.S. So I was wrestling with meet the new boss, internal meeting, meet key client. What do I do? So I sent my boss a note giving him the kind of what do you want me to do, where should I go? I didn't hear anything back. So I said, okay, I better decide what to do. So I said, well, I'm going to go see the customer. Spoke to the CFO. He was very comfortable. And at the same time, we were getting our numbers coming in for our first quarter. So as the numbers rolled up, it didn't look pretty at all. But undaunted, we kind of worded up the CFO. Off he went to the U.S. I went to the customer meeting. When he got there, he got smacked around the room. How could you call off your forecast 6 weeks into the year? We'd only just started. So I arrived the next day, 24 hours later, blissfully unaware of what was going on, and saw the CFO. He said, ooh, didn't go well. I said, okay. I then went and found my brand new boss. He took me aside, and he explained to me in very short syllables that we got off to quite a bad start. So here I was, 6 weeks in the company, brand new job, didn't know my boss. He didn't even like me, didn't know why I got the job. Numbers were bad. CFO felt he got set up. So I thought, okay, what do we do next? So those first few months were actually quite rocky. But I knew what I should do. I went off and hired an executive coach, which was great. It gave me someone to vent to and complain about all the staff, and no one got it, no one understood. We then went and had an off-site, because you always do that. So I went and did an off-site. We kind of hugged some trees, held hands. sang a few songs, and I thought, perfect, we're done. Right? Everyone gets it, right? Got strategy figured out, good, way we go. Next few months, it's still not looking good. Team's not really gelling, the numbers are getting worse. I'm getting regular therapy from my boss. And if you understand, in the U.S., you have to get up very early to get your therapy. Doing calls, kind of 12-hour time difference. So, at that point now, we were probably 8 months in, and I was trying different things. I thought, okay, I'll be the tough guy. It's working for my boss. He's scaring the hell out of me. So I'll try that. And that wasn't working. And that didn't feel right. So I said, okay, I'll be the nice guy. So thank you for saying thank you. That's very nice. Oh, what a wonderful idea that is. And that wasn't working either. So at that point, I was very fortunate, and I really should credit our head of HR at that time, who came in to see me and kind of said, Mike, I've been talking to this kind of small consulting organization. I'd like you to meet this chap called Peter Fuda. I think he can help us pause you in kind of leadership, as well as kind of strategy direction. So at that point, I'm saying, great, happy to meet him. I'll try a witch doctor at that point. Anything to see what we could do to kind of change where we were going. So met with Peter. He explained that this wasn't a short trip. This really was a long journey you need to take. So, was I really up for that? Because the feedback was going to be pretty brutal. And as you can see, it was pretty brutal. Rob talked earlier about, CEOs that don't have any particular impact. Well, I think I was having an impact. The good news is I didn't really understand what it all meant, at all. So as Peter said, in the meeting, you get your feedback. What do you do with that? Right? What do you do? So I thought, okay, one of the first things I did after the meeting, so this is yours. I took the feedback home, right? And I said, my wife Kirsten said, how was the day at the office? I said, well, let me share with you kind of my feedback. And Kirsten at the time was a director at Microsoft, been there for a decade, and certainly Microsoft, they're very good at the HR 360s, leadership development, etc. So she looked at this. She hadn't seen this tool, but she's looking and said, blue's good, right? And I'm saying, yep, dear, blue's good. So you go, and she goes, then she looks a bit more and understands. She goes, actually, that feels about right. You can be a real dickhead. So here I was looking for a little love at home. Just got kicked around by my staff. Consultant says you're a loser, go home and you get more of it. So that really said, God, I better do something here. And to be fair, though, it really did give me, a very good team, and you do need that network of support. So both from the external consultant, the management team, as well as very much at home with my wife giving me that direct feedback. And she's here somewhere. So that will give you some of the background in terms of, the early days, the first kind of 6 to 9 months in the business, and then that first feedback. And then the thing was, what do you do? What do you do? So let me take you through the kind of things that we did. And the only really good news I could take, or the only crumbs I could take out of that initial feedback, really was that the management team, did want to give me that feedback. They were passionate. They did want to see things improve and wanted us to be successful as an organization. So we started on the journey as an organization. We really set a set of standards within the management team on how we agreed we would behave, the kind of language that we would use. Because certainly at an executive level, you certainly get undercurrents in an organization, or there were big elephants in the room that no one really wanted to talk about. Or meetings would go round and round and round, and we wouldn't actually make a decision. So we set a set of standards for the organization, for the executive, because you can come out at an executive meeting, and we're an IT company, you can bet if there was division in the meeting, that was spread like wildfire right through the organization. Texts were happening before the meeting was over, that there were issues there. So this certainly gave us a framework to work on. From there, we looked at strategy, said we don't want to be victims of the corporation at all. You know, we're 10,000 kilometers away. We can run this ourselves. So we started to build strategy. And what I was looking for is connecting with our staff. And we've got 4,000 people here in Australia. It wasn't the executive who could work any harder, but if we could energize and get that discretionary effort from those 4,000 people, I thought that would make an enormous difference. So we kind of did a number of those things. I was then desperate at that point to remeasure. Right? I'm saying, Peter, we got to remeasure. Please let me. And he said, no. And that was about 4 months after we started. He said, no. I said, can we do it next week? And he said, no, this has to be sustainable. This is not something that you do every fortnight, Mike. So I said, okay, so we carried on along that journey. And things started to improve. One of the things, we failed in our first year. I missed my numbers. Australia missed its overall revenue and profit numbers. So we certainly had challenges. But we were starting to build some momentum. As we went into that second year, I invested quite a lot of time back into the corporation, back into ensuring we got a fair and reasonable budget in the business. Often, numbers come down from head office. You feel, God, I don't know how I'm going to achieve this. So I spent quite a lot of time begging, pleading, whatever it took to get us a fair budget. So to give you a sense, we're kind of 2 years in, ready to measure. I was all excited. And this is what we got. Yeah, exactly. And I thought, that's not great. It should all be blue. Everyone likes me. And Peter explained you don't go through green to get to blue at all. But he did say, and as I started to understand the tool and the impact I was certainly having and we were having in the business, was that all 12 of those styles had dramatically shifted. Good news, we'd finally put blue ink in the printer. I was getting some blue. We certainly were starting to achieve some results. So we're certainly feeling much better in the organization. And a number of phrases were starting to take hold in the company. We talked about things like, don't let perfect get in the way of better. We're going to start, we'll course correct. Because in those early days, I was very, very good. I could spot a mistake on a PowerPoint from 50 yards. And I could drill and drill and drill on that issue and miss the whole point. I thought I was so clever. And not important. I could spot a mistake in a cell in a spreadsheet and correct it like that. But we were missing the point. So here we were. Things were starting to certainly improve through the organization. And one of the things I enjoyed, I'm not the greatest salesperson, but I certainly enjoyed connecting with the staff. And I think I'm pretty sure it was my wife again who suggested, do you know all the top managers in the company? And I said, well, yeah, I know many of them, but no, I don't know them all. And it is quite daunting or embarrassing when all 4,000 people know who you are, but you don't necessarily know them by name. Everyone would come up and say, hi, Mike. Great to see you. And I'd go, oh, okay, yeah. How are you, buddy? So So in my usual kind of discipline process-driven way, I said, well, what can I do about this? So what I did was I tasked someone to get me photographs, and I actually picked the top 10% of the company, so about 450 people, of all the kind of, not so much all the directors, managers, team leaders across the organization, across the country. And I took their photograph and their name and their title, and then I went about memorizing them. Yeah, I know, dumb idea, right? But it was great, because then I could meet people, and if I recognized, hi, John, how are you? How's the data center? Blew them away, right? But it actually helped me enormously to connect with the staff. This happened when I was down in Wollongong. I knew the manager, how are you? And then there was a guy, his team lead, standing beside him, and the team lead said, oh, hi, Mike, do you know who I am? And I go, smart ass. So, I kind of looked the guy up and down and go, yep, hi, Fred, how are you? And are you still working on the BlueScope account? And this guy was just taken aback. Ooh, that was pretty impressive. And the other thing I learned as a CEO is you do have to think on your feet. Right? So I looked this guy up and down. He didn't see. I looked at his name badge. Got his name. I was in Wollongong. Our biggest customer was BlueScope. I was pretty safe. But after that, people thought I knew all 4,000 people. And I never dispelled that rumor at all. It was super. But we also did things like capable change leader programs. How do we equip the leaders of the organization? We're in a very dynamic industry. Things really were shifting on CSC as well. In our business, we tend to focus on a small number of large transactions a year. The market was moving on us. We had a whole organization geared to doing these big deals. And we were seeing the shift in smart sourcing, out-tasking, selective sourcing, whatever buzzword you want to use. And we needed to say, how do we adapt? So we built training programs for leaders across the organization. We did a graduate program. I was very keen to bring bright young people into the organization. We hadn't done it for many, many years. So we had a formal graduate program. We inducted people properly into the organization. We wanted them to feel good on that first day, first week, as they joined CSC. Reward and recognition programs we developed, really just to say thank you to people. And we were starting really actually to hit our stride. The numbers were actually pretty good, which was very gratifying, kept my boss happy too, and things started to continue to grow. Remember another story. So all these graduates would probably, after 2 or 3 years, probably had 70 or 80 graduates in the organization. And I remember going down for coffee one day. Actually, I think I was with Peter. And we're in the coffee queue. And this young woman comes up to me and says, Mike, you know that presentation you did to the staff last week? Well, yeah, not great. Right, I think the strategy, you really could change some of the direction. We could expand the word. And I'm going, hang on. This was exactly what I was looking for. 3 years earlier, I would say, hang on, you can't even supposed to find my office, let alone give me feedback in the coffee lineup. But this was very much what we were looking for. We were getting engagement at the staff level, and that extra energy paid. As I talked to customers, they were feeling it in the organization. So things started to really improve. So I then had probably one of the most difficult decisions of my leadership within the Australian operation. We'd been successful a couple of years, coming up 3 years in. We'd made our numbers, and I brought in a particular executive to head up a part of the sales organization. And he was absolutely getting results. Business was turning around, hitting our numbers. I was getting the accolades for that success. But gosh, did we have a trail of blood. That red stuff all over the floor. And I had to decide, what do I do? We have standards in the organization, but we are a numbers-driven company. So I agonized actually for quite a long time. This is someone I'd known for many, many years. I'd brought them in. In fact, I'd worked for that person in a previous life. But I said, no, we really need to make that decision. So sat down and we agreed that we'd part ways, and that person moved on. And I was absolutely amazed at the impact that had across the organization. That rippled through the organization very, very quickly. And I'm pleased to say we continued to hit our numbers, which was the real test to say, could we lift? The business just didn't even miss a beat, continued to grow. But we had a set of standards and behaviors in the organization that we believed in. Because people they really will look to the leaders of the company to set the tone for the organization. You know, every company has a culture. You may not like it, you do. So I was now saying, okay, Peter, can I measure now? You know, I'm kind of 4 years in, and I hadn't presented the last time I talked to you. So just before I'd been CEO for, as Peter said, over 4 years in the Australian operation, I was then asked to move up to Asia. And just before I left, we did the final remeasure. So what I'd like to do now is kind of share with you where we were. Yeah, thank you. It really feels great. That kind of gives you goosebumps when you kind of see that, I have to say. And yeah, it's still not perfect. You know, sorry, Rob, it won't ever be perfect. I'm always going to have red, just a little. But it was super to see the shift. And I guess what was very gratifying for me personally was certainly that the core executive team that had given me that very direct, brutal feedback back in 2003 were still in the organization giving me that feedback last year, or actually beginning of 2008. So they'd been on that transformational journey too, which was super. And I guess what I'd like to do is then also share with you what's most important to my boss, and it's the usual stuff, what interests him fascinates me. So we want to look at the financials to say, how did we really do? And so here's where I took over in 2003, 2004. We missed our numbers. We dipped. This is our profit numbers, U.S. dollars, because that's how we report. It kind of fluctuates with currency each year, but if you extend that over 5 or 6 years, that'll give you a sense. You know, the organization last year finished here in Australia at $1.1 billion, $81 million of profit. And also what's very important is that my successor, Nick Wilkinson, who's come in to lead the Australian operation, has continued success, taken the business to the next level. The management team have continued to be one of the real shining lights in the corporation, which is super to see. The other thing that was happening at the same time is that as other executives came through Australia, as they had global roles, they were saying it feels different in Australia. We don't know what Shove is doing, but it feels different down here. And the rest of the corporation is now starting to embrace what we're doing, particularly around strategy and execution of that strategy. And then we're just starting to talk about leadership impact. And we started this similar journey in the Asian business as well. We started that several months ago. And that is a challenge. When people that say Asia is one country or one area, gosh, it's not. What we do in Malaysia is completely different to what you do in China or Japan. And I've been responsible for everything from India through to China and Japan. So numbers were certainly very positive. It's continued to grow. The legacy has carried on. We've had 5 Eagle Awards in the business. Eagle Award is the award that the corporation give us for hitting our numbers. The Australian operation has continued. The other thing we've been able to do is take many of the learnings through the last 5 or 6 years and actually create it into a consulting offering that we're actually able to take back to companies and talk to them real-life experience that CSC's got in doing this and sharing it with other organizations. So hopefully that was of interest. Can I just have the practitioners? Could you put your hands up, please, again? I want to see who you are. No, higher. Great. Now, there's one thing I really need you to do for me. You must please find a more miserable CEO. Because I am tired of having that circumflex. There's got to be somebody that you can find that can be worse than that. Because that's worse than the bottom 10. Like every time I look, the bottom 10%, I'm in the, I think I am the world record holder. And that's not something, in hindsight, it's not bad. And it's certainly, at that moment in time in my leadership, it probably was fair. But, God, I don't want to keep coming back here and sharing my circumflex with now 2,000 new friends at all. So thank you very much for listening, and back to Peter.